Hey guys, how you doing? Runs a Nut here. Today I have a water cooling kit review for you. This here is an Alphacool NexXxos Cool Answer 240 DDC XT water cooling kit. Our friends over at Performance PCs was kind enough to send me this kit to review for you. And basically this kit has everything you need for a basic water cooling kit install. This has got a reservoir, a pump, a radiator fans, fittings, a CPU block, even the tubing and coolant. So let's take a look at each of the pieces individually, and then what we're going to do is actually install them in a system and see how well they go together and see how well it cools a CPU. So with that, let's take a look. So for the coolant, we get an Alphacool branded coolant, 1000 milliliters. The tubing is 3/8 inch or 13 millimeter inside diameter tubing. The pump is a Lang DDC 1T. These pumps are pretty reliable. They've been around for quite some time. Actually, before the 1T was the DDC 1. The pump comes just with its own stock top, and it is a 12 volt DC pump. The max flow rate on this guy is 420 liters per hour. The diameter stock of these ports right here is the 10 millimeter or 3/8 inch for 3/8 inch tubing, and like I said, it's a 12 volt pump, and it also has a TAC cable, so you can get your RPM speed through your motherboard or through your fan controller. The fans that come with the kit are Alphacool Cool Move 1250s. The model number is an ACS 1250, and they have UV blue blades on them, 7-blade design. Underneath black light, those blades will glow. Standard size fan, 120 by 120 by 25 mil. The airflow is 47.65 CFMs, and the speed of the fan is 1250 RPMs. They should be quiet. They are rated at 17 dB, and the bearing is a fluid type bearing. So the other thing that we have here is also they sleeved it. So it's got some nice sleeving, black shrink at the end. The only thing I wish they would do, it's just a pet peeve of mine, I wish they would sleeve it all the way up to the base of the motor. But we'll see how loud they really are and see how they perform in the kit. And we have the DDC Lang 5 1/4 inch reservoir. It's a single bay reservoir. The front has the Alphacool logo along with a water level indicator. And on this particular one, there's a little bit of, I don't know if that's glue or paint or something that overran a little bit on there. But other than that, you know, the faceplate's a little busy. I like cleaner. I don't need to have, you know, percentages shown for me, but that's just my personal preference. The top for the fill is a large port, and there are adapters that you can buy online if you like to have, like I often do, is I have a funnel connected to some tubing that goes into a G1/4 inch adapter to fill my reses, and you can get adapters that allow you to do that. But this bay slides right out, plenty of space to be able to fill up your res. On the back you have the mounting plate for the Lang DDC 1T pump. It's already mounted for you, and then you have the ports that the pump will directly mount into, and then the in and out outlets going into and from your loop. And then also we have mounting for the pump and for the reservoir, and also an Allen head tool, and also some vibration dampening material to mount underneath the pump, so the vibration doesn't travel through your case. Hopefully. The block is an Alphacool NexXxos XP3 Light Edition. This is acetal and copper. It comes with a mounting bracket for AMD, AM2, and AM3. Comes with an Intel mounting bracket that supports socket 775, 1366, 1155, 1156, and socket 2011. Also comes with the Allen key tool and the mounting hardware, and also some thermal paste. The block, as I said, is all acetal, and it has a copper base plate. It comes protected with a protective sheet, and has both the in and out etched on the block, along with the Alphacool logo. Now, one of the things that I noted when I was looking at this block is that I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but the threads in the end go all the way down about a half an inch, a complete 360 all the way down, and then on the outside, only half of it has threads going down that far. The other half only has it going down a short few threads. So I was concerned about that, and I contacted Performance PCs, and which in turn they contacted Alphacool. And evidently there have been some other folks that were concerned about the half threads in the out portion of the block. Well, basically they have designed it this way to optimize flow in the block. And overseas, over in Germany, where this block was home based, the fittings are 7 millimeters long, threaded fittings. Here we have more, we have that, and also mostly probably 5 millimeter. So this block was designed with that characteristic to optimize flow, and it works just fine with both 7 millimeter and 5 millimeter threads. And actually one of our fellow enthusiasts, Strens, has done a Roundup which actually shows that this block performs very, very well. I think it's at the top of the performance group. So I would recommend, I'll have the link on it, you can take a look, but according to Alphacool, this block was designed this way, and it does perform well. And I'm going to hook it up and I'm going to test it as well. But there is no flaw in the block. If you get them, they look like that. That's the way we design, and they do perform well. And but because Alphacool listened to the concerns and the perceptions of us, they actually are changing the block so that it will be changed so it will support 5 millimeter threads. So basically it does now, but they're going to increase the thickness, I think, so there's some more threads there, so that the perception won't be that there is an issue or flaw with it. So we're going to mount that in the system and have this guy run, and we'll see how well it performs. In this kit you also get 6 compression fittings. It's 2 for each device, the RAD, the CPU block, and the reservoir. They are standard G-quarter base threads. They are designed for 3/8 inch inside diameter tubing, which is the tubing you get in the kit. And I believe they are copper with this black passive material coated on them. I do like compression fittings. I'm glad that they included that in the kit rather than barbs, especially if you're new to water cooling. Having compression fittings is safer in my opinion, and especially if you're just starting out. One of the other things they also provide in this kit is an ATX, they call it bridging plug or shorting plug. Basically this connects to your ATX 24-pin ATX power supply connector and allows you to turn your power supply on without being connected to a motherboard. The radiator that comes with the kit is an Alphacool NexXxos XT45 full copper radiator. This is the 240 millimeter version. Full copper, I don't know if you can see in the lighting here, but you can see that the fins are all copper. The very edges are coated with the paint. It has a flat black finish to it, and it has ports on one side and also on the other side, so that you can mount it in a couple different orientations. And it's really nice, they also have it at the end caps as well. So that helps if you're going to mount your radiator in the front of a case or in the top. You have the capability obviously to mount it this way with the ports towards the back or near the front of the case. The only thing that I wish they would do is consider either not providing the labels or mounting the labels so that the logo is not upside down if you mount it in this orientation. Now, obviously if you mount it towards the front of your case, you will have the logo oriented the proper way, but that's just a little nit. The other thing that Alphacool has done is the mounting points for the fans the screws go through. Each of these flanges are mirrored underneath, and there's a piece of the metal so that it prevents the screws, if you were to put them through too far, they could potentially go in and damage the fins. You don't want to do that. So that's a very nice feature. I think all radiator manufacturers should do that, but Alphacool has done that on both sides. And also, in keeping with the copper theme, they provide for the plugs, the 4 plugs that you don't use, they provide 4 copper plugs with O-rings, and then 4 sets of screws to mount your fans to the radiator. So if you are going to do push-pull, you have the screws to do that, and they are a nice copper finish as well. So the next thing we're going to do is take all of these pieces from the kit and assemble them and put them into a system and see, number one, how easy it is to assemble and install into a case, and then see the cooling properties of this setup on a CPU. And this is the case we're going to install the Alphacool NexXxos Cool Answer DDC XT240 kit into. It's a BitPhoenix Shinobi XL windowed version of the case, and it's got quite a bit of water cooling features and options for it, so I think that this case will work out well. So let's get down to it. And here's the Alphacool NexXxos XP3 Lite, the Acetal Edition, and I'm about ready to install it into the motherboard. Now, while I did not receive any instructions in the box or the kit, it's pretty straightforward. And basically, you'll put the screw up through the bottom of the motherboard with a nylon washer. Then on the top side of the motherboard, you use another nylon washer and the nut. Then what you'll do then is place this Intel bracket, in this case, down over the top and put this washer so it covers over where the screw comes up, then the spring, and then tightening the spring. All right, now what we're going to do is put the thermal paste that's provided with the kit on the CPU. Now, there are many ways to do it, but I find that the line method or the P size is the best, and actually there's quite a few examples and tests that were done, and I'll put a link in the description below that you can take a look and see for yourself how they actually spread and apply. But I like to do the line method. I think that is the works at the best, or it's almost the size of a pea, a little bit longer, and I let the block spread it out. What I've done is mounted the frame around the block, and we're going to place the block now on top of the CPU. So we've added the washer, the spring, and the thumb screw on top of the block. Using the screws provided with the radiator, I'm mounting the 2 fans that are provided in the kit, the Alphacool Cool Breeze 120mm fans. They will be mounted in a pull configuration, and I'll show you how I'm going to install it in the case. So I've installed the NexXxos XT45 full copper radiator in the top of this case, and I have the fans in a pull configuration, so they're going to bring air in from the top of the case down into the case. And I did that so that I could mount some filter at the top of the case to prevent dust from buildup, and also to bring cool air into the case. Also, I oriented the radiator so that the end where the fittings will go is here. So what I like to do is use the shortest amount of tubing between my reservoir and the radiator and the CPU block. So it'll all be local to this area of the case. So you always want to keep your tubing runs as short as possible, but also with maintaining the best aesthetics for the loop. You want it to look good, so if you need to make a longer run to make it look good, then by all means. So here's everything that's provided in order to mount the DDC 1T pump onto the 5 1/4 inch single res bay. You've got the tool and the screws to mount the reservoir into your chassis in the 5 1/4 inch bay space. You have there's a rubber mounting isolation pad here to prevent vibrations from getting through your case from the pump, and you'll mount it with these 2 screws, 2 nylon washers, and 2 lock nuts. So those screws will be put on either side of the pump with the washers on top and then the lock nuts on there. And so what I'm going to do now is take the caps off and install the pump right into the 2 ports here and secure it down. Also, there is a lip here to hold the pump in place, and what I found it was helpful to do is I loosened up these screws just a little bit and the pump sat right down in there. So now it's nice and firmly secured in the plate, and I'm just going to tighten these up a little bit. So if you're trying to install it and you find it's a little bit difficult, I would recommend doing that. Okay, we have the pump now assembled to the reservoir using the insulation material and tightened down so it fits within the bracket. And the other thing to note is the orientation of the pump. This arrow indicates that the coolant will be pushed through here. So this will be the output of the reservoir, and then this will be the return, the input into the reservoir. You can see that this port right here is connected. All right, now let's install the reservoir into the case. The next thing to do now is to mount the reservoir inside the case, and also to provide a little bit of extra tubing so that there's room to be able to remove the fill port and fill the reservoir. So I'm going to get the fittings and mount them in the proper places on the radiator and on the reservoir and on the CPU block, and then we'll go ahead and tube up the loop. Part of the loop run that I'm going to do is from the out of the CPU block to the radiator. So that's a little piece that goes between here and loops up there. Now, first thing to do is I like to take some coolant and wet the edge of the barb on the compression fitting. And then what you need to do is, of course, feed some tubing through. And if you don't have a pair of tubing cutters, it's worth it. Don't use scissors. Get something that'll cut a nice, clean cut on your tubing. And these are inexpensive, maybe $5–6. All right, so I have the compression on. I have a little bit of coolant. It just makes it easier for the tubing to fit over the barb on the compression fitting. So I have it on, and now I'm going to tighten it up. To mount the other barb, the other compression fitting right here. So I just need a little piece of tubing to take me up to there. Now what I'm going to do is I'll measure from the in to the out of the reservoir to run that tubing. We have the output of the reservoir going to the in of the block, the out of the block going into the radiator, and out of the radiator back into the reservoir. And we have plenty of space to be able to fill it, and we have tubing that actually allows you to pull the tray out and be able to service it like that. All right, so the next step is to prime the pump and fill the loop. Now, one of the most important things when you're filling your loop is to make sure that the pump has coolant in it. You never want the pump to run dry, or you'll ruin your pump. It'll burn your pump. So in this reservoir, we have the pump mounted to the back. I'm going to go ahead, before I try to pump any kind of coolant through the loop, I'm going to fill the reservoir up as high as I can get it, and then also hope to see if any of it makes its way into the tubing. So as you can see, I have the reservoir filled to the tippity top with coolant. Now what we're going to do is set up the power supply and the jumper that came with the kit to be able to just power the pump only. Now here I have a power supply, and I have the 24-pin bridge or jumper that I can plug into this power supply connector for the motherboard. And again, it's connected to the right spots. It's basically it's this green one is key, and then any other black one. So, but this connector shunt just plugs right in here, and when I power this power supply on, turn it on, it will turn on because of this jumper. Now I have my Molex power coming from this power supply, and now that I have coolant in the reservoir, I am now going to plug in this. This is the power lead to the pump. Now I do not have the power supply on yet. I'm just plugging in the power to it. Okay, we have some paper towels down underneath the block over top of the graphics card in case we get any leaks or drips. Typically, if you do, you'll know it as soon as you start putting liquid in there. But we have it protected, and we also have paper towels underneath where the reservoir is. Now, nothing else, although you see power connection to the motherboard, that's the power supply that's in the case, and there is no power applied to the case in any way. The only thing I have is the power supply on the bench with the jumper that came with the Alphacool kit. We have it powered up, and I have coolant inside the reservoir. And what I'm going to do is turn it on quickly to get the pump primed, and you should see some fluid making its way into the loop. Now the first tube that should get any coolant would be this one, because this is the one that feeds, it's the first one coming out of the reservoir and pump going into the block. So I'm going to turn it on quickly and then turn it off, so we make sure that the coolant does not run all the way through and the pump runs dry. Okay, now we're going to continue to fill the loop. I had to tilt the case a little bit in order to get some of the air bubbles out of the loop in order for the pump to prime up. So let's see if we got it going now. Okay, we have the pump going. I'm going to continue to fill. And we'll keep an eye out, check for leaks. Okay, we were able to install the Alphacool NexXxos Cool Answer DDC XT kit inside of this case. And the next thing to do now is to see how well it cools our processor and performs. So let's take a look at some benchmarks and cooling properties of this kit. So we finished up 30 minutes of OCCT at stock, and the highest the temps got were 55, 56, 51, and 57. The ambient temp was 23, which gives us a 31.75 delta T for stock clocks. Now we're going to run it at overclock 4.7 and do the same thing. Okay, so we finished testing at the 4.7 overclock. Under load, the max temps got to be 80, 85, 80, and 80. And so that averaged out to be an 81 degree average load under the overclock. The ambient temp was 25 degrees, so that's a 56 degree delta. At the overclock, running 3770K 4.7 overclock at 1.2 volts. So there you have it, guys. You saw the assembly and installation of the Alphacool NexXxos Cool Answer 240 DDC kit. What I'd like to do is take you through each of the pieces of the kit first and talk about them, and then tell you about my assessment overall of the kit. The tubing that comes with the kit is 3/8 inch inside diameter tubing. Now I prefer and tend to use 1/2 inch tubing only because I find a thicker tubing tends to is not as prone to any kind of kinks. So, but the tubing that came with this kit is fine, and if you look up flows and cooling systems, you'll find that the tubing diameter doesn't matter. It really is just personal preference. And for me, I find, like I said, the thicker tubing doesn't kink as much. But if you plan your install right and you tube up your system in such a way when you're dealing with straight fittings, such as the ones you get with this kit, you won't have any issues, such as the install that I did. The fittings, as I said, the fittings here are straight 3/8 inch diameter for 3/8 inch diameter tubing, and the Tubing went on to the compression fittings without any problems. On the reservoir, I think the finish could have been a little bit cleaner. The front faceplate is a little bit busy in my opinion, but there were blemishes on the black lines of the faceplate. And the assembly of it really was straightforward. There was some adjustments that I needed to make. I loosened up some of the screws on the bottom in order to be able to fully seat the pump into the plate, but that really was no big deal. That went together well. It was a challenge, however, to bleed the reservoir and the pump assembly, and that took a little doing. So that's something that could be improved upon. With regards to the CPU block, I mentioned early on when we first were looking at it that I had originally had some concerns over the threading on the outlet port, but as Alphacool said in Performance PCs, that block is designed that way, and there absolutely was no problem leaking it, and the temps were just fine. And actually, if you want to see it compared to most all of the other blocks that are out on the market, I put the link inside of the description so you can check out Strens Roundup and see how well it actually did in a controlled setting with a number of other blocks. On the fans were they're good. They're decent fans. They're not super performers, but they did okay. And I like the fact that they were sleeved. That was a really nice feature, a nice quality job on the sleeving of those the fans. The radiator has a very nice finish. My preference was that if they could have the decals separate so you can apply them, or if they're oriented in such a way on either side that you could, they would be right side up depending on the installation. That would have been nice, but that's a little nit. Performance of the radiator was good, and the fact that it had multiple ports really is a big plus. I really like the fact that it has multiple ports, so you can install it in the front of your case, standing up, and you can either run off the top of the radiator or either of the sides. So the flexibility for that is really good. And a really nice feature is that they have the plates behind where the screws thread through, so they prevent you from accidentally damaging the fins on your cooling fins in your radiator. So that's a big plus. I really liked that as well. And finally, the power supply jumper block that they provide. That's a nice little extra to put inside of a kit like this, and you saw that I was able to use it. And that's something that everybody should have. If you're building systems, you should have one of those when you're firing up your system, water cooling it. And so that was just a nice little extra. So overall, the Alphacool NexXxos Cool Answer 240 DDC XT kit is a good starter kit. If you've never water cooled before, this is a good kit to start with. It has everything you need, and it's reasonably priced. Just be aware that you're going to need to have a little patience when you're bleeding your loop, because it will take a little bit of time, but once you get through that, you'll be up and running in no time. So I hope you liked this review. If you did, please like and favorite, and if you're so inclined, please subscribe. Again, I want to thank Performance PCs for making this review possible. And also, if you're interested in the case that this kit was installed in, check out my other videos. You'll see a review up and coming for that very case. So thanks for watching.